Everyone tells you the same story in your 20s. Grind hard, save a little, try to make money. But almost no one tells you the more important truth. Your 20s are not about how much money you make. They're about how many multipliers you build. Money is linear. Leverage is exponential. Most people in their 20s are obsessed with income, salary, side hustles, overtime, promotions. They measure progress by monthly pay. But the people who escape the race early are doing something completely different. They're building assets that work without their constant effort, skills that scale, networks that open doors, systems that keep producing while they sleep. Think about it like this. If you make $2,000 more this month, your life barely changes. If you build one powerful skill, one strong audience, one scalable business, or one deep network connection, your entire future timeline shifts. Money fills today's bucket. Leverage builds the pipe that fills every future bucket, automatically. And here's the dangerous part. If you spend your 20s chasing only money, you train yourself to trade time for cash forever. You become efficient at staying replaceable. But if you spend your 20s building leverage, even small income later can explode into massive results. This decade is not for comfort. It's for construction. Not building a lifestyle, building a launch pad. In your 20s, your biggest advantage isn't intelligence. It isn't motivation. It isn't even opportunity. It's time with compounding still ahead of you. You can afford to be wrong. You can afford to start over. You can afford to look stupid. You can afford to learn slowly and then suddenly accelerate. Older people pay for mistakes with money. You pay for mistakes with experience. And that's cheap. This is why leverage matters more than income early on. Leverage needs time to mature. A skill needs years before it becomes rare. A personal brand needs years before it becomes trusted. An investment needs years before compounding becomes visible. A business needs years before systems replace the founder. If you delay building leverage until your 30s or 40s, you're asking time to work faster than it can. But if you plant leverage in your 20s, you don't need to push later. The momentum pushes you. Most people in their 20s try to optimize comfort. The wealthy in progress optimize positioning. They ask different questions. Not, how much can I earn this year? But, what will make me impossible to ignore in 10 years? Not, what job pays most now? But what skill will pay me forever? Not, how do I look successful? But what will compound when I'm tired? Because time doesn't reward effort. It rewards structure. And leverage is structure that grows while you age. When people hear leverage, they think of money, loans, or real estate. But in your 20s, financial leverage is the weakest form you have. The strongest leverage is non-financial, skill leverage, rare valuable abilities that let 1 hour of your work be worth what 10 hours of someone else's is. Reputation leverage, being known for something specific, so opportunities find you instead of you chasing them. Network leverage, access to people who are building, hiring, funding, and creating, not just consuming. System leverage, assets that produce repeatedly, content, software, processes, audiences, businesses. These forms of leverage don't show up on bank statements. That's why most people ignore them. They look slow. They look uncertain. They don't impress at family gatherings. But 10 years later, they're the only things that matter. A strong network can create income in a week that salary can't in a year. A rare skill can compress decades of earning into a few intense seasons. An audience can turn ideas into assets instantly. Money can buy comfort. Leverage buys control. And control is the real definition of wealth. Your 20s are the cheapest time in your life to build these multipliers because your downside is low, your learning speed is high, and your future runway is long. Miss this window, and you can still succeed, but you'll be pushing uphill instead of riding momentum. The biggest trap in your 20s is mistaking activity for progress. You work long hours. You chase raises. You switch jobs for slightly better pay. You hustle just to feel like you're moving forward. And you are, but only in a straight line. Linear effort creates linear results. Leverage creates curves. When you focus only on money early, you optimize your life for stability, not optionality. You choose safe paths, predictable roles, comfortable routines. The problem isn't that these are wrong. The problem is that they consume your best years without building anything that scales. Leverage requires temporary imbalance. It often means earning less now to learn faster, looking average now to become exceptional later, delaying status to build substance. This feels risky. It feels slower. It feels like you're falling behind. But what's actually happening is invisible progress. You're building things that don't pay immediately. A skill that will one day be rare. A platform that will one day have reach. A system that will one day run without you. A reputation that will one day open doors. Most people never do this because the rewards aren't instant. They'd rather take the guaranteed paycheck today than the uncertain leverage that pays 10 times more tomorrow. So they end up rich in experience, but poor in freedom. The ones who escape don't work harder. They work on things that multiply their future, not just fund their present. If your 20s are about leverage, then the question isn't, how do I make more? It's, what am I building that will still be paying me when I'm tired of building? The answer is never one thing. It's a stack of skills that compound, a stack of relationships that open doors, a stack of assets that don't reset every month, a stack of systems that grow while you sleep. This doesn't require perfect planning. It requires direction. You don't need to know exactly where you'll end up. You just need to make sure each year adds something that can scale, instead of only something that gets spent. Think of your 20s as an apprenticeship to your future self. You're not here to look successful. You're here to become hard to replace, because money can be lost and made again. Time can't. Leverage is how you turn time into an ally instead of an enemy. Build it early, and the rest of your life gets easier. Ignore it, and you'll spend decades trying to compensate with effort what you could have built once with intention.